Ready for Elijah's canned joke any moment now.
Wait, are we live?
Yes.
I think we're
That's
live.
fine. That's fine. We'll cut that in post. All right.
Oh.
Welcome, everybody, to Dancing Dragons Live. I think Will was supposed to do the intro, but I just jumped on it. So this is Dancing Dragons Live. It's Dancing Dragons Coaching Collective's weekly show where you get to hear from real coaches talking about real topics that affect your real life. You can go to DancingDragons.cc. Check us out. We have the perfect coach for you. Whatever you're looking to get done in your life, whatever you're looking to do, we have somebody that can help you, guide you, mentor you, coach you. Whatever it is that you're looking for, we got them at DancingDragons.cc. So check it out. Without any further ado, tonight's topic for Dancing Dragons Live, which comes on every Monday at 8:30 Eastern-ish, 22 minutes late today. But our topic for tonight is about internalized emotions and how that plays out. So, Alex, did you want to talk about that?
Yes, Elijah, thank you for the wonderful intro. As usual, today's topic is about identity, internalization, and identity formation. Right? We inherit an identity, and then we have an identity throughout our lives, and it's almost ever present. And so it's super important. It affects you every day, and it's both perception and reality. So I'm gonna give it to the mic to Will, or whoever wants to take the mic. But basically, this is all about identity formation, reforming your own identity, and how to steer your future by kind of manifestation and changing your own self-perception, your own identity. So yeah, whoever wants to grab the mic, Will, Joanna, Megan.
Well, let me just set this up a little bit, right? Because some people might not even know what internalized emotions are and how that can affect your identity and kind of where we get our identity from. So you want to start us off, actually, Coach Joanna? Like, how do people get these internalized emotions? And like, let's start from the very beginning. How does one person's identity develop? Because like you said, like Elijah said, you know, it could be parents, it could be your society. So how does this develop through our life?
Yeah. I mean, mostly it's through experiences. It's through the things in this world that we see, hear, touch, taste. The way that people perceive us is sometimes a mirror of how we perceive ourselves, but often it's their own projection of how they perceive themselves projected onto us. So when I was a kid, I grew up overweight. I went to elementary school, had a big crush on a guy, little kid named Michael. He called me Thunder Thighs underneath the tree, right? He threw a rubber ball at me, called me Thunder Thighs. It took me until I was 42 to wear shorts in public because that experience, right, was so internalized in me. Even though I had gone to college, even though I had had a boyfriend, even though I had had a spouse, even though I knew because society had changed that being overweight or being of a different body isn't a detrimental thing. But in my head, in the 1990s, when I grew up, it was. Kate Moss was the thing, right? Being a waif was the thing. And so when it comes back to how do we form our identities, we form them, I believe, by what we experience in our lifetimes. And so good or bad, right? I could have had a different experience with that kid under the tree if he chose to say, hi, nice jeans, nice shorts, instead of throwing a ball at me. I might have just never thought about it again. But when my nephew graduated from the same school, I took my husband to that tree and I showed him that tree because it became a part of me, right? It became like a piece of who I am. And I think that's like a great example of just one detrimental thing that can happen. You know, not every experience is like that, but it follows us. Our identity is based on a series of paths that we go to in our lives. And those paths are directed by the experiences and the external stimuli that we feel. And so because I didn't have any support during that, you know, that time when that incident happened, I couldn't externalize those feelings. I couldn't go to my parents. I couldn't go to my counselor at school. I felt like that had to become part of me in order for me to process it. So I think another thing that comes with internalized feelings is how do we cope with them, right? How do we take an external stimuli, move it inward, digest it in an alchemic form, and then put it out as part of us. How does that happen? And I think we're still
Yeah,
all learning.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think
Go
we're
ahead,
still
Joanna.
all learning as a scientific community, as a coaching community, because it's so different for each individual person. How this process happens and what the weight of these experiences are differs vastly from soul to soul.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Elijah.
and what I would say, the way I like to visualize, like
If you want to
identity
mute
is
up
like a
whoever's
really weird.
singing there, sorry, whoever's beeping in the background, if you want to just mute up. So Elijah, start
Yes.
again, please. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the way you can like kind of visualize identity is kind of like it's like a web almost, right? It's like it's kind of like a feedback loop, right? So it's like you act a certain way, and people react to that, and then you interpret their reactions to you, and then this builds your identity over time, and it creates like a web of your identity, right?
Because that kid was
It's a
bullied,
constant
right?
feedback back and forth, right? Where and so it's like it's very interesting, right? So I know very famously he gets called the lobster guy sometimes, but Jordan Peterson had wrote in his book 12 Rules for Life, like one of his rules is stand up straight with your shoulders back. And part of that is just because there's two reasons, right? It's the way people will perceive you, right? And then they'll treat you different. And then secondly, if you actually stand up straight with your shoulders back, it does release like more serotonin into your system. I don't know all the neurological stuff. He's a clinical psychologist. I'm not. Right. But like you were saying, like actually chemically, it will help you be happier and more confident. And so just doing that thing can drastically improve your life. So, but yeah, that it still goes back to that idea where it's like, it's a lot of people like to think that they're like a strong, independent person that doesn't care what other people think, and it's just not true. Every single person builds their identity off of other people's perceptions of them, right? And there are some people that are more assertive and more like resilient to other people's perceptions, and they won't change the way they react based off of how other people treat them as much as other people. And so they kind of like can pave like the path a little bit stronger, but everybody is dependent on the views of others. Eventually, those views are going to shape how you see yourself. And that's just a fact.
That resiliency can be taught and experienced through coaching largely. That is something that coaches really can dig into with a client and talk about how we build resiliency. Because it doesn't just happen. Right, because you have to, it's a skill like any other skill that can be taught and that can be manifested, as you were saying, Alex, into this new version of ourselves. We worry, we feel socially withdrawn, right? Those are all things that come with like an inadequacy. And a coach, if they're doing their job, can help see past that, can help bring you into a place where you do feel adequate, which is like marvelous. If I had had that kind of person in my life growing up, my life would have been entirely different, because those little moments where I was bullied became just the core of who I was for a long time. So I think
that's a great point, Coach Joanna, because I have my own little theory, and what I think happens when kids are kids, we're awesome, we're curious, right? We're not afraid to make friends, right? And then we kind of get older, and society has these little buckets that you can become. Oh, you can be an emo kid, you could be a hip hop kid, or you could be a Wall Street, you could wear vineyard vines, right? You can do one of those things. And what happens is then society is kind of putting you in a box and establishing an identity for you. And the great thing is having a coach or a mentor is incredible, because a lot of the society and authority is like, you're this and you're that, right? And everyone's their own unique person, right? We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, and working with a coach is one of the ways that you can say, all right, this is what I'm getting from everybody else, but all these forms of authority don't necessarily have your best interest in mind, and if they do, it's not specifically tailored to you. So that's important. Megan, let's get you to chime in on this. Well, how can internalizing
I'm getting so
emotions
like entranced by everyone's thoughts, I forgot.
Well, I mean, just talk about for a sec the effect that internalizing emotions can have on you. I think it can be a positive thing too. And matter of fact, like sometimes our what our parents say is a really big thing, right? And I don't know if we were live or off camera, and we're talking about, our parents' expectations, Elijah, right? And I think Elijah was saying, if you make them, then hey, I'm a winner, and if you don't make your parents' expectations, then you kind of feel like a loser, right? And you're letting your parents down, and I can tell from personal experience that, like, when I first started going to school, I won like academic fitness awards. I was getting great grades, and then I graduated from the first grade, and I got heavily into drugs. No, just kidding. And it was all that. But as I got older, I wasn't as good, right? And I wasn't paying as much attention. I was being more social. I really didn't care about that. And I had a teacher who was from middle school. He moved up to the high school I was in too. And he told me one day, and I actually respected this guy. He was a really cool teacher. Shout out to Mr. Saucer, rest in peace. He was like, he hit me with some hard truth one time, and we're not all fortunate to get cool teachers that hit you with the hard truth, right? But he was like, well, people caught up, right? Before in sixth grade, seventh grade, you could just kind of BS your way through something, but you're not doing anything right now, and that's kind of a wake up call. And that kind of goes to what I'm saying earlier. Sometimes you don't even want to necessarily meet your parents or society's ideals for you. So, Coach Megan, maybe if you could elaborate on what it means to kind of not only just work with the coach, but kind of find out what's best for you individually.
So I think generally and professionally, it's about being authentic as well as expressing boundaries. So the world is always saying, like, be yourself, but then they're also saying, but if you're not like this, then you're kind of weird, or this is the norm of success. This is the norm of how things should be. And I think, as you guys mentioned, it's a lot about awareness. It's a lot about knowing who you are, and then how your relationship with other people come into play. So for me, what came up for me when you're talking about parents is I'm an only child. My parents were born in the Philippines. I was born and raised here, and they wanted me to have my own voice. But as soon as that voice differed from theirs, they weren't happy. So it was this constant back and forth where I felt like I always had to have a different voice, but at the same time, always being shut down because of it. So I think, as we talked about people's weight on us growing up, I've always been either treated like a princess or like trash. And I think that's really made me who I am, in the sense, like, yes, it made me successful. Yes, it made me know my worth, but at the same time, I was always constantly second guessing maybe my esteem or certain other things. So it's always been back and forth. And that's why being a coach really resounded with me, because you're really just there connecting with someone. Everyone is kind of in the same headspace, in the sense, like, we want to be loved, we want to be happy, we want to be our optimal versions of ourselves. And when you have a coach just being given that space to be authentic and empathize, but at the same time maintaining boundaries where you're not telling them what to do or falling the trap of being told what to do too much. I think it's all just, this whole topic, I feel like, is just another aspect of living life and being human. So I think it's really important that we're talking about this. And when it comes to coaching, it's just really impactful to have that relationship with someone, whether it's a friend, a coach, a mentor, someone that you look up to in a book or in a movie. It all really is connected.
Yeah, and so obviously our main goal here is to connect individuals watching and clients with coaches. And as Elijah mentioned at the top of this program, we have a very diverse array of different types of coaches. Maybe it's business, executive coaching. Maybe you want to succeed in dating. Maybe health's your goal. I mean, we have pretty much everything. And Alex can expand upon that too. And I do think it's very important, as I say every stream, and I'll say again this stream, you get in legal trouble, you're going to go see a lawyer. Your tummy hurts, you're going to see a doctor. And like, they got these videos you can buy, masterclass. You can learn how to be a comedian like Jerry Seinfeld, or you can have Bill Clinton, how to tell you how to be a master politician, or you could get something personalized for you, because even you can pay for this masterclass, but it's not personalized and tailored to your unique, authentic self, right? So, but before, and everyone go visit DancingDragons.cc, open that up in another tab, and share the video, guys. Share the video. Go and subscribe to this channel. We're live approximately 8:30 every week. We're gonna get a little more sturdy on the 8:30 time, but we are working through some technical difficulties, so we appreciate it. Share the video, guys. But okay, so for myself, right, I was like, all right, I was probably like 19. I was like, all right, I got a little beard going. And by that time, the doctor said puberty's around the corner. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go find myself a girlfriend. So I was like, all right, how am I do this, right? So my friends were like, yo, just go approach girls and, play the law of averages, right? The worst they can say is no. So after thousands, get away from me, you creepy loser, I started to internalize that, right? I was like, man, I'm a creepy loser. So in the meantime, I mean, we're all gonna, people say nasty, crazy things. Most of the time they say these things, they're the ones that are hurt and they've got a problem. But like, how would you tell somebody to deal with something? Because like, even people that have a good feedback loop, every once in a while somebody comes in and kind of messes that up and gets under your skin. Coach Joanna, what would you say to somebody to counteract that?
Yeah, I mean, it's negative self-talk, right? In coaching, we talk about how to address negative self-talk. And even Megan, you were saying it too. It became a part of who you were, to just talk down to yourself. One way that we can deal with that is mindfulness. We can encourage a person, a client, to experience the world around them as it is, rather than what they perceive it in their head, right? Look around, name things, look at the sky, look at the ground, go outside, put your feet in the soil, be in your body here and now. And it kind of can sometimes alleviate that self-doubt, that worry that spirals out of control. Another great tip is to journal, to write down your feelings, to even go to your coach, whatever coach you have, to go to your doctor, your therapist with some written material that you've written in the moment, so that you have a guidebook of what you want to talk about. A lot of times when we get to these places where we have open ears that are listening and that are curious to us, we freeze up. We don't know how to talk about these things because they're scary. They're damning, right? I have these feelings. These are my own. I don't know if you'll accept me as I am because I have these feelings. And when it's written down, you can read from it, right? You don't have to be on the fly. You can let your intelligent side take over rather than the emotional side leading the game. And I think that those are two great ways that anyone can use in any situation. You don't have to be with a coach. You don't even have to be a coach to recommend it to your friend or to your loved one. To just go take a walk, go put your feet in the grass for a minute, right? That negative self-talk kind of drifts away when you realize, oh my gosh, there's more to this existence and this shell that I'm in than this voice in my head. And the voice in my head is important, right? It can lead to motivation, it can lead to acceptance, but it's not the only voice that should be mattering, I think, all the time. And as humans, we are self-centered, right? We are egotistical little creatures because that's how we survive. But when you open it up to community and you talk and you listen, these things don't seem so oppressive. They seem more like opportunities for shaping and growing, which is, I think,
one of the
coaches, what we want to do.
That was very well said. I just want to piggyback on that, and I know Eli wants to jump on after pause. But but here's the thing, right? Everything that Coach Joanna just said, I agree with. I wouldn't get a little too obsessive into writing it down, but I do think it is important to have it, because like you said, sometimes like me and Elijah, we were just debating even before we got on the StreamYards, right? And then sometimes I'll be like, I'll call Elijah, or Elijah called me and be like, oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I was like, whatever, I'll just get back into another debate, right? So it is very important, right? Because sometimes we feel things and it's important to have them. I think one of the best things that you can do is express gratitude. And I don't want this to become a crutch. I will use myself as an example. I actually put aside bad things because I did this, but there's a certain level that you can do. You can sit there no matter what and say, hey, you know what? I'm grateful, right? I don't have any burns on my face. I'm able to use both of my hands. I'm healthy. I've got a family that loves me. I have a shelter over my head. I always, when people ask me how you're doing, Will, I say, hey, pretty good. Half the world lives off $2 a day. Right. So comparatively, I'm doing pretty darn good. Now, I'm not saying to use that to say, OK, my life is falling apart, but I'm still making more than $2 a day. but at the same time, kind of putting things in perspective can be helpful, right? Because sometimes this stress that we have, this fight or flight that happens, maybe your boss says, this report sucked, or your girlfriend's mad at you, or something like that, and then you start your heartbeat, and that's maybe from like a saber-toothed tiger chasing us back in the day. We weren't. That's blown up. You're not gonna. No, there's not a woolly mammoth coming to take you down, and that's part of the modern world. And we need to realize, hey, look, this isn't life or death here. I'm healthy. I got a family that loves me. Coach Eli, he'll probably rebuke the fact that I have a family that loves me, but we'll save that for another stream.
Yeah. I'll mean to kind of change where we're going here, right? But there's, I think that Coach Joanna brought up a lot of cool things that you can kind of do to mitigate what's going on, right? And so if you start to internalize these negative things, journaling and that kind of stuff is absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of stuff. I'm a big proponent of working with your hands. I feel like I do home renovations a lot of times, and it's when you build a deck, and then at the end of it, you're able to see wow, I built this deck. This deck is going to be here for 25 years, something like that, right? There's something very, very satisfying about that we don't get enough of in the modern world, I think. And I think that's why the arts can be so helpful. Another thing is there are different alternative methods, let's say. So for instance, I have a friend, she's a big fan of shadow yoga, right? And so shadow yoga is this weird kind of yoga. I don't know. She pays $300 a class for it, which I think is ridiculous. But but it's I don't know, you do a bunch of this bunch of stuff. She says you do stuff with your feet or whatever, because what happens is that you can actually internalize, when we talk about internalized emotions, right? That stuff it's physically internalized, right? You can save it into your muscles. You can save it. It creates stress can create new neural pathways and all this other stuff, right? And so I remember the first time I ever got a massage, it was when the masseuse was pushed on this one area of my shoulder, I would just burst out laughing, and I couldn't stop. It was uncontrollable laughter, right? And I don't know what was saved in there, but somebody must have told me a really funny joke, and it just stuck in my shoulder, right? But but the point is, right, is that this stuff is weird, right? So with shadow yoga, they do stuff with your feet because your feet are in shoes all the time. And so you store up a lot of tension inside your feet. And then when you're going through a stressful time, your feet will remember the stress through the tension. And then when your brain feels the tension in your muscles and your feet, it reminds itself of the traumatic experience or the stress that you were going through. Right. And so working through that kind of tension and doing those kinds of flexibility things and stuff, and working through those muscular things, and just exercising in general is really good for separating those connections from your brain to the tension. Right. And again, none of this is medical advice. OK, we are a coaching collective. We are coaches. This is all just my opinion. Right, so don't take anything I say to be legal medical advice or whatever. Don't sue us, because you can't, because I just did a disclaimer. So the next thing I would say is the healthiest thing I've ever done in my life is mushrooms. So hear me out, right? So when you take mushrooms, what it does is it actually kind of separates yourself from your ego, right? And it's so you're able to analyze what happened in your life without those really bad emotional connections to it. And you're able to think about it in an objective way. And it's really healthy for processing. And I would explain all the healthy things that happened to me after that one time I took mushrooms. I don't take I know I look like I do a lot of drugs. I don't. But that one time I did mushrooms, it was the healthiest decision. I would explain all the health benefits I had after that, but you wouldn't believe me, right? You literally would not believe how great it was for you.
I believe it.
He literally, when I met Elijah, he had a buzz cut. He did shrooms, and look at those locks. So Coach Alex, I want to get your take. I got a question here. I think that it could be possible to be positive, to use that as a positive, internalized emotions. Do you think that's a positive? Do you think that's possible?
Yes, I think so. You see a lot of people, they have dreams like they want to be an astronaut, or Arnold wanted to be a bodybuilder, and they identify with their future success, and it's like they have a path and a dream that they identify with, and it's almost an unbreakable, unstoppable force that they become to achieve that. So I think there's an upside and a downside to identity. You can identify with negative things or identify with positive things. There is such a thing as overconfidence, but I think most people probably won't run the risk of being overconfident, right? Some people will, but most of the time we don't run the risk of being overconfident. And so, yeah, there are definite upsides to having an identity that may not be completely accurate, but it's like, you could strive for something bigger than yourself. That I'm not an astronaut today, but maybe I will be tomorrow, and so I might as well start acting like one, right? Like dress for the job that you want, not the job you have. So, yeah, I think it's the internalization often does. I think in real life, internalization usually has to do with negative self-image, but you can kind of flip it around. You can turn the tables on reality by starting to take control of your own identity and identify as something more powerful or more, I guess, self-assured than you would be otherwise. Because we are controlled by other people, right? As human beings, we're not totally independent creatures. We depend on each other. And so other people's perceptions of us matter, and other people's perceptions of us forms our own identity. So identity is group fostered to a degree, but if we can be more independent, financially independent, physically, then we're more able to form our own identity. So I think a lot of the conversation should revolve around independence, because if you're not independent financially or physically or mentally, right? Because we can be mentally dependent on others, then it's hard to really control your own identity. And if you can't control it, then you're really at the whims of other people around you. You can kind of choose your circle sometimes, but you can't always. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
No, you're exactly right. And I think that's why coaching is so important, right? Because you're at the whims of these other people, and having a good coach that's one-on-one with you in your specific situation helps you reclaim that and create your own identity. And I think Elijah has a point, but I'd also like to kind of interject. I would love to have you guys chat about what is some good healthy ways to start, maybe create a blank slate and then start your own identity. But Elijah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's see. How do I say this? I think that it's pretty apparent that we're kind of going through a crisis of self-esteem. I would say that most people would probably agree with that in general. It's kind of weird. Like if you actually look at it on like a socioeconomic level, we are richer today. Life is generally easier today than it has been for most of history, specifically in the United States, or if you're in a first world country, generally speaking, you got it pretty good compared to 99.9 percent of people throughout history, right? And so it's like, well, then why today does it feel like so many people have low self-esteem? So many people seem to be struggling with mental health, right? And I think that there's this thing that we've done in Western society. And I don't mean to throw Alex under the bus here, but I think it is this, like, people have gotten caught up on this idea of being independent. And I really think that independence is a complete myth. I think that it just doesn't exist. I think that really what it is it's choosing isolation. And so what happens is it's like, look, I was a big proponent of defooing. Like we did an episode on cutting off friends and family for various reasons or whatever, right? And so I'm a big proponent of if you have somebody that's abusive in your life and you want to cut them off, go ahead and do it, right? If you think that that's the best thing for you, do it, right? What I would say is that we have done as a society a very bad job of teaching people how important their familial and friend relationships are, right? Because when I was in the army, right, you're in a unit and if you're in a squad with people, you do everything together. You work together, you eat together, you work out together. You're always together, and you don't get to choose your unit. It isn't like you're I'm going to go with my best friends. That's not how it works. The Army says this is your squad, and that's it. These are the people that you have to spend your time with. And if you hate all of them, you're still going to work with them. You're still going to eat with them. You're still going to work out with them every single day, right? And so what happens, though, is there's this really amazing thing. Even if you don't get along with them, you kind of gain this kind of, one, you have to learn to live together because you're stuck together. But two, you kind of learn respect outside of you can still hate this person, but there's a kind of this respect that forms in that situation. And what happens is that there's this identity, this thing links to your identity where it's you know what? I may not be a perfect person, but even somebody that hates me respects me. And then it's reciprocal, right? And I think it's so important, right, for self-esteem to have that kind of relationship in your life. And I think that's why you see a lot less mental health issues with people who are in sports teams and stuff like that, because they kind of have that similar dynamic. But in general, if you weren't in the military or you weren't in, a big into sports or something like that, you'll probably go your whole life without having that kind of thing. Your parents make you mad, that's okay. I'm moving out when I'm 18, and society says that that's a great idea, right? Oh, my parents don't want me to do this, that's okay. I'm living my own life, right? And people get this caught up in this idea of independence, but really what they're doing is that they're isolating themselves. And then they don't get that very important feedback that really bolsters the core of your self-esteem. That you know what, I might make mistakes, but there are still people that respect me and are willing to live with me, and we're just missing that as a society.
I think also what that speaks to is emotional regulation, which is a teachable skill that coaches can teach clients. And that really falls into play when you're with someone that is hard to work with, when you're with someone that you would rather not be around. How do you regulate your emotion? How do you not become rageful? How don't you become solitary and withdrawn, right? Because I agree with you, Coach Eli, no man is an island. No one is an island. We need each other to survive on this planet because this planet's constantly trying to kill us, right? It's just a fact. Every time we go outside, there's something that could potentially harm us. And so I think when we really try to break it down and teach these skills, journaling is great, I agree, but regulation, actually regulating emotions and teaching people that visualization and meditation and all of these kind of woo-woo things are really what our ancestors did to keep themselves from going crazy, to keep themselves from being consumed by a large sky and vast seas. And when you realize how small we've always been in our existence, and then now we have this global connection, are we prepared? Are our psyches, our identity is actually prepared for any of this? How do we externalize an internal feeling of new community when we are very used to being isolated as tribes, towns, cities, we're not connected to each other? So I think that's a great point, Coach Eli. It's really, it's an interesting thing to discuss.
I think that's actually a great segue too. How would you guys recommend, and after you internalize those emotions, obviously we're human beings. I'm usually an unflinching optimist. I'm usually always in a good mood, but I'm a human being too. Things happen, people pass on, tragedies happen. How long would you say people should deal with it, and how? Is it best to just be sad for a couple days and then, or maybe you just want to go out in the forest and yell? How should people deal with these internalized emotions?
think it's different from patient to patient, client to client. I think that what works for one person will absolutely not work for another. If you told my mother to go out and scream in a forest, she would look at you like you have four heads, right? But I would march myself out in that forest and yell at the top of my lungs. So I really think it, which is where health coaching comes in, it's personalized. As we said before, it is your way into the deeper parts of yourself that don't involve necessarily a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They're things that you can work on that are goals, right? It's a goal to have an identity. And what you spoke to before, Coach Will, about a clean slate, like what are we doing? How do we feel about having this like opportunity to build a new identity? I cleaned out my whole closet. I realized that I don't like any of my clothes. I hate them all. I am not the same person I was 10 years ago when I bought most of them. My whole life being overweight, I've always bought either what was on clearance or what fit me. So I have no idea what my personal style is. And to do that, like I'm a coach and I'm still struggling because it is so incredibly difficult to pinpoint what is right for me. I've read what works for other people. I've read what works for, clinical psychologists. I've read studies about how to find your identity. It's a work in progress, I feel, always.
So,
That's
Coach
the beauty
Sharon,
of it.
go ahead, Megan.
Go ahead, Megan.
That's the beauty of it, right? Like you're human, and I think that's pretty awesome that you can say that, look, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead. So really knowing yourself, being aware, educating, like you said, you're always reading things, how to better yourself. You never know what is your thing until you go through it. And I think when you're going through it, it's okay to cry. It's okay to eat Ben and Jerry's, but recognizing you can experience that, but you don't have to stay there. So being sad, crying it out, but that doesn't mean you have to stay down. And that could look like different things. Like we've talked about exercise and nature. And I think whatever gives you joy, if you couldn't do anything else, but you know that this will give you joy no matter what, whether it's listening to a song, talking to a health coach, screaming in the forest, it really depends on you. And so it's really a scary thing to come face to face with yourself, but having a coach and recognizing that you could use one is really a good first step.
Yeah, what you said really resonated with me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Which part?
No, go ahead.
Never mind. Oh, come back to me. Go ahead.
And that's the importance really of having a coach to be able to kind of to be there with you and know who you are. And that's kind of the thing before I tossed it to Elijah. Like, I believe every human being, sure, we all have flaws, but I think every human being has two dope qualities, at least two. And one thing they're pretty good at. And what's one of the things that people say, oh, well, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? Well, I heard one dude say, he was like, the meaning of life is what you give it. And one of the things that you can get from a coach is I define what my goal in life is, and I have to change it because I met with Coach Eli. My former goal was to create a more altruistic world through nonviolence and the Socratic method. Sounds good on paper, but there's no such thing as altruism. So I'm working with Coach Eli to kind of change that. But it's still the same overall mission. And I think that's something, whether it's building a deck, but even more important, everyone has a talent, and having your coach uncover that and giving your talent to the world to be shared, as you guys talked about with community, I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest gift you can do with your life. But yes, Coach Eli, please.
I would also say, like first off, I think like things like screaming in the forest can be helpful to some people, and to other people, it's like stupid, right? Like it's like it's not that it's stupid for everybody. It's just it depends on where you're coming from, right? If you're somebody who's been told, like, don't scream, don't raise your voice, yelling in the forest could be something that's like very liberating, right? And that it can really make you feel better, right? So that's cool. What I would say probably works across the board. It depends on your personality. Like I hate these these toxic joy people that are always like trying to like make things about like, oh, everything going to be positive and stuff. If you have like a melancholy personality, you like to be sad all the time, that's cool, read some poetry, cry. That's awesome, right? I'm actually a little bit on that spectrum, right? But what I would say though is don't dwell on your mental health. I know like it's hard. Like if you are like going through things, the best thing I think is it's like, yes, you should take some time, try to analyze it, try to work through some stuff, journal, do something like that. Right. But then you should also purposefully disengage from thinking about it. Right. Because I think that there have been studies done, and I can't quote them directly, but there have been studies done that the more you think about your mental health, the worse your mental health gets. So like, what I would say is that it's like, yes, you should definitely I'm not saying do not ever think about your mental health. Definitely do that. But, kind of also have a time where it's like, okay, I'm going to go play baseball. Okay, I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go engage in this hobby or that hobby, or I'm going to just do work or whatever it is, and distract yourself sometimes. Right. And if you're trying to find your identity, and like, is your identity somebody who thinks about their identity every day? Because probably not. Right. So just be you, like just go do it, go do the thing. That could be your identity, is somebody who does you. So anyway, that's what I got.
Yeah, no, that's basically the plot of Superman, just a dude that thinks about his identity way too much. Yeah. Coach Alex, man, what do you think here, right? Like, okay, you just took a bite, so I'll give you a second. We'll come back to you.
The cardinal rule: no eating on the show.
I did remember what I was going to say while you chew. To you, Coach Megan, when you were talking about the negative self-talk and how, agreeing with what Coach Eli said about moving through it. Don't dwell there. And it is a transitory space. I really think that this internalizing in a negative fashion can be transitory. You don't have to linger there. There's no rule that says that a melancholy person cannot move their way into somebody who sees good vibes only and doesn't cringe, right? And I think through that, empathy and compassion are major markers for how we see others. If we have more empathy and compassion when we look at someone who's not like ourselves, then our identity grows because we don't judge them, we don't negativize them, we end up emotionally regulating ourselves. We end up having more emotional intelligence because of it. So if we don't linger there too long and we have a goal of moving forward, I think you're absolutely right. Like the limits are not there. There's no limit. Your identity can be whatever you choose, however you choose it.
It is pretty.
Coach Joanne, you will have to pry my Nirvana CD from my cold, dead hands, okay?
I mean, I'm not taking it, but that's...
You know what? Let's have a little 5-minute talk about Nirvana. Never mind. What were you saying, Coach Megan?
I think that's what makes it so powerful and beautiful. And like, you see, there's no limits because everyone is different in how they're dealing with things, how they process things. So I think it really helps people remember, like, you are not alone and you are special. And that's why you have that power, because nobody else can be you the way that you can be. And so it just really reminds us, I think, there's not like a right or wrong. We all have our own path. We all go through it different ways in our own time with our own weaknesses and strengths. So again, I just think it's really astounding to think about it all and why health coaching is really cool, because it's just being about you and coming home to yourself versus having to learn something. You're just unearthing yourself.
Yeah. I read a study recently that said that deep coaching, intensive, get to the crux of the matter coaching, is dealing with a client's intentional state rather than their internal state. Because for as much as our internal voice is always on, people react differently. We have different intentions based on different reactions to these voices. And so for a coach to bring out that uniqueness in a person, we look at intention. We look at, well, okay, you had this reaction, you had this emotion, you had this event happen. What do you intend to do about it? And then how do we help you cross that bridge from internal to intention? And I think that that's like the magic of coaching. It's
getting out of your own way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, centering the client first. You're the expert in yourself. The coach knows nothing about the client, right? You are the person that can make that jump. between internal and intentional. You just need a map. You just need a little bit of a roadmap to get there. And if you didn't go to the military, if you weren't in a marching band, if you weren't on sports, if you didn't do a team activity, it's less likely that you would have those skills, I think, from my experience. I was in an orchestra, but I never learned how to do any of this stuff. I never learned how to goal set. I never learned how to leverage a team's spirit to bolster myself. I just sat in a chair and played some tunes. I was part of a group, but that group had a different function entirely. And so I really think that, bringing out that intention is it's something really only coaches can do.
Yeah, and speaking of which, one of the best coaches in history was Marcus Aurelius, right? And so Marcus Aurelius, he didn't found Stoicism, but he made it cool. And so he had like a quote, and again, this is kind of like it's a very old problem dealing with identity and moving past internalized emotions, right? And so he has like a really cool quote that's like, I don't know the exact quote, but it's something like if you find like yourself caught up on emotions from the past, right? Just think of yourself as dead, right? And just take what's left of your life. Like you're dead. That's it. That person is gone. Take what's left of your life and just live it the way that you want to from now on, right? And so, Stoicism's really cool. So I'll give it a shout out if you want to check it out. If you're trying to get past this kind of stuff, yeah, Stoicism's cool. I made a case in a history class that Stoicism was the cause of the fall of the Roman Empire, right? So, listen, I have some criticisms for it, right? You shouldn't be okay with crap, right? Like you shouldn't just.
Well, that's actually a point in his favor.
Yeah.
That's a point in his favor. It destroyed the Roman Empire. So I mean, that's
but it was Romans becoming Stoics that led to. It wasn't like Stoics did it. It was like
the Romans were like, the barbarians are. They're like the barbarians are attacking. Hannibal and the barbarians attacking. We'll just don't worry. I'll just feel good inside and let them destroy our whole society.
Let me journal real quick about it. Let me journal about it.
Let me journal about this. Yeah, that's hilarious. And one of the things I want to add in here before we get to Coach Alex too is, I'm not completely against Stoicism, but I think you should have like a healthy blend of being Stoic, but also using the law of attraction or I know Elijah hates that term, but I stand by it. Like this is what we're talking about, like building your own identity, right? So you could just be reactive to everything that comes up. Hey, he's a loser. Hey, you're never going to make it. This guy, da 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 da. Or you can just be like, all right, I'm going to screw all that. I'm going to take all that negative energy that Elijah's giving me, and I'm going to use it and be transformative with it. Like Coach Joanna said, be an alchemist with it, right? Turn that base lead into gold mentally. And Coach Alex, I got to know, what were you snacking on first?
These are Peruvian like potato chips, but they're like yuca, yucca, yeah.
Ooh, yucca, those are dope. Yucca fries are awesome too. They're way better than regular fries. If you guys are watching us in Peru, we want a sponsorship.
Yeah, we can talk about a corporate sponsorship with I think it's called Inca. What is it called? Inca chips. Inca chips. But I'm breaking the rule of no eating on the show. So let's bring the conversation back a little bit towards, I think, identity formation and how to change, right? We all want to change for the better. Very few of us want to change for the worse. And
thank you. Well, so I have a little bit of a quandary for you guys. So I was mentioning that I am trying to, clean out my closet, try on a bunch of new stuff, try to form a new identity about how I present myself to the world. What is some advice that you all would give me as your client?
I would start with like, what's your personality like? And then I would say, because honestly, to me, nothing feels better when I've got a nice haircut and dressed well and I got a nice cologne on. And sometimes it's not always like, I'm wearing a suit and tie now, but dressed well, that's not always a suit and tie for me. It could be my favorite snapback and cool pair of sneakers, and it's different for everybody, right? So I think like that's the cool part about dressing, right? Is like you can be whoever you want, but I think you're most satisfied when you feel comfortable in your clothes. Like I love a red shirt. I don't feel as comfortable in another color shirt. That's my color. And I think it's important establishing your color too and what looks good with you. Like I'm a person can never wear brown. I can't wear brown. It's gonna look terrible on me. Elijah, what's your take on that? I think that's kind of a little bit of a journey deciding what you like. I would go and try a bunch of things on, 3 completely random things, and see how you feel. Go to a few different stores.
That's where I am. I'm in the middle of that right now.
Elijah, you're muted, my friend.
Thank you. So that's what I would say. I would need to talk to you quite a bit before I could like give you like any kind of like suggestions in the right area. What I would want to start with is just the fact like you got to find a baseline, right? So like I think with situations like this, like talking about identity and stuff, right, and internalizing things, right, like and talking about self-esteem, like some people might be like, man, my closet sucks. That means I suck, right? Or at least there might be that creepy thought in the back of your head. But just so you know, the average woman says that only 10% of their closet is wearable. So I don't know what percentage you're at, but it's probably not like, you know, you're probably in that 10% range, maybe 5%, right? But that, I mean, it's way better than thinking like, oh my God, everybody else got these really great closets and they have their style all set. And it's like, it's not true, right? It's just, and understanding what, like when we think of like what goes on TV or like on social media, and it seems like everybody got themselves put together, everybody's packaged up in the best way possible for social media and for the cameras, right? And so it's just important to really get that nice baseline of where other people are at. So don't feel too bad about your closet being crappy, right? Like lots of people's closets are crappy. I'm more of like a minimalist. I think a lot of guys are minimalists when it comes to like fashion. Will certainly is not, but like I think like for me, I have like almost all the same kind of like V-neck style t-shirts. And I have to like, I can't wear long sleeves. I have like OCD. So it's like, I forget what they call it, but it's like, I feel the sleeves on me. Like even if I wear a suit, I have to roll up my sleeves under my jacket. I can't like button my sleeve at the wrist. So,
I think that was like necessity dictated a lot of what I wore. It was what was either functional or what I could afford, right? So it's interesting to just not be there for once. Like it's all scary.
And then what I would say too is a cool thing. Like, and this is a exercise that I don't use for fashion, but it could be applied to fashion, right? And so, it's like I like to ask people, what are your where are 3 people that you look up to, and what's like each of their best quality, the thing that makes you look up to them, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then like after we do that exercise, right? And again, this is kind of a spoiler alert. You're not supposed to know this part before you do the first part. But everybody just get that in your head. I'm not going to ask everybody, but get it in your head. If you're at home, get this in your head. Who are the 3 people that you look up to the most or that you admire the most? You don't have to admire them. You don't have, like, if you're doing the whole Christian thing, no false idols, whatever. Who's like 3 impressive people, right? And then, what are their 3 most impressive qualities, right? Those 3 qualities are probably the best way to describe you, right? At the end of the day, right? Like, and so a lot of people don't realize that, right? But it's like, what happens is that we kind of build ourselves up into like, we think of ourselves as like these qualities as like an ideal. And then we always see ourselves falling short of those ideals. But really, because we are thinking about them, then we kind of like, we live them more than other people would, right? And so that's generally the rule. It might not work for everybody, but I think most people are like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So what I would say is think of like a few people that you really like the way that they dress. And then I bet you that's more your stuff. Like you could probably just steal their outfits and be like, I'm just going to like literally steal this person's outfit.
Great
like,
idea.
I bet you would work. Yeah, That's what I would say. Is I would just
And
think
you're
of like
spot
3 or
on.
4 people.
Yeah, Eli, you're spot on. Now, I would say that Coach Joanna is in probably a different place than potential clients too, right? Because she's kind of established, and a lot of our clients are going to be looking to either to date or move up in the executive world. And this, I didn't think we'd be talking about this every week, but we're talking about the halo effect, right? And so the halo effect is a psychological idea that basically says, hey, if you're dressed nice and you smell nice and you got your shoulders back and you're charismatic and funny, people are going to assume things about you that aren't true. And that ties into what we're doing in your favor, mind you, right? So if you dress for success being a man or a woman and you go that little extra mile, and now obviously once we get like successful, we can just dress like Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, right? I mean, he's a lizard, everything fits him, but once you get successful, then you can kind of dress as you want. But to the people that are trying to be successful, or maybe you want to start a new identity, like this could be a number of things, right? Maybe you want to be this type. Maybe you were this type, and maybe you kind of want to be a little bit rock now. It depends what you're going for, right? And so that is all a part. Creating your style is, I think, the most important part of your identity, because it's the one thing that you have control over that you're showing to the world, right? And one thing I would finally say about that too is it's not expensive too, because people are like, oh, you're gonna get a suit, it's expensive. Hey, you can go into H&M for less than $150 and get yourself a suit, and there's other places you can get. And you know what? Maybe just get a couple different blazers, couple different undershirts, couple different ties. You're good, right? And hey, sometimes you got to wear that suit over and over and over again. But you get successful, then you get one paycheck, you buy yourself a suit, and how you dress is really instrumental, because you have one brand to show to the world, and that's how you dress. So I think it's very important, and I'm glad you brought that up, Coach Joanna.
Coach Megan,
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
what are you thinking? I know. I can see it behind your eyes. You're like, pick me. What would you tell me?
But I loved hearing Eli and Will. I was born a fashionista, and I'm continually evolving as one. And I think what's really important is, again, trying to find who you are and what you want, because there's so many trends out there and rules you can follow, but your style is timeless and unique. And right now you're at the best place where you can literally build from the ground up. So I like the idea of Eli finding people that you already do look up to, but not to steal their idea, but just be like, hey, I like this, I like that. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want to present myself. This is how I want to be to the world. And most importantly, I want that to capture my authenticity and my ability to be able to leave my mark in the world and today. And I think it's so important, because like Will was saying about how you're feeling, I think I look better the worse that I feel, because I know that I can always do what I need to do and make sure that I look my best. And at least I know that I look good, and that's going to help me feel good. Right. And no one else knows that you might be freaking out inside, or like, this isn't my identity. It's not up to anyone interpretation. Like, you're allowed to make what that is. And so whether that's by color, like Will likes red but hates brown, or you just have a fancy for the way certain pants make your legs look. Like, I think it's pretty cool that you can just, again, look nice but yourself, whether that's formal, whether that's, I think, whatever makes you feel good. And then obviously, tailoring it to whether it's an interview or a concert or going to Walmart, it's all part of
Megan, you hit the nail on the head, because when you got a fresh haircut and you're dressed how you feel comfortable, there's nothing like that's the ultimate confidence boost. And as a matter of fact, I forget if it was it may have been the Incans, but when the Spanish came, it could have been the Mayans. I'm not sure, but fact check me in the comments. And shout outs to Nick watching, and Mellows and Mama Bear. I see you guys in the comments. Share the video. But they basically, when the Spanish came to kind of off these fools, they offed a whole bunch of people, but they left the barber. They left the barber because they were like, wow, it's weird, because people go in there and they're feeling disappointed, and they come out and they're all they're all confident, they're in a good mood again, right? And that's why girlfriends don't want you coming right home after you get that haircut, right? Because guys, when they get a haircut, they're like, oh, let me take a little ride for around a little bit, right? Because there's nothing that replaces that confidence when
Girls do
you're
that
dressed
too.
well and you're fit. Yeah, it's exactly right. Like when you get when a girl gets her hair done all curled up and nice and all, or it just depends on what your personal style is. Like,
I hate to be that person who corrects people's grammar, but it's hair did.
what did I say?
You said when a girl gets her hair done. It's when a girl gets her hair did.
I was talking in the plural.
I'm with Will. I don't like hair did.
I'm sorry. It was
Anyway, the sad part about it is I actually implicitly said to Elijah, leave the humor to me on these streams. So we're breaking all the rules. But no, yeah, what you give off to the world is a huge is huge when it comes to what other people think of you. And then again, remember, what other people are thinking of you is creating that feedback loop. But it's not just your appearance, it's how you interact with other people. It's how you build rapport with people as well too. And little things you can do is just, I got the brick of dad jokes here. Know a couple bad jokes. People love to have fun. Like I said, it's not just girls that love to have fun. Boys and trans, we all love to have fun too. So, try to work on your social skills as well too, because people love people that make them feel fun and welcome, right? And so just doing that alone these are things that you can do to kind of increase your feedback loop. Now we are going over an hour here. Let's get to some final points, starting with Coach Megan and that brilliant smile. See, that's one of the ways you can win people over, with a brilliant smile like that.
So, are we talking more about fashion or internalization or art?
Whatever you want. Any final topics, as long as we don't let Elijah tell another joke, we're good.
Oh my God, I agree. Okay, so just kidding.
Oh, you can joke. Okay, you're allowed to joke, Megan. That was funny.
Okay, I'm quiet, but when I talk, I'm talking. You know what I mean? Anyway, I just wanted to reiterate, having this space every Monday night has been very warming, and I shout out to the people that are watching at home or whomever, sharing who we are and what we do. It's just a reminder that to be yourself, to be your optimal self, to have that community, to not be afraid to be who you are, to just really keep learning and growing. All that we want is to be loved and to love and to learn and to grow. And I just think if you keep having these kinds of conversations, this kind of awareness, and making sure you're always just working on yourself, you can never really go wrong. And even when it's hard, I think a lot of people tend to get scared by, like I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, or trying to avoid how you feel. But you can sit in how you feel, sit in your cry. It can be really cathartic. Sit in your devastation, as long, again, you just don't stay there. But you really need to go through that to grow, like the whole, darkness to light. And
yeah. And I'm going to steal your thunder real quick, because everything you said is spot on. One of the things I'll do is, like, I remember getting really upset one time. I had some bad, what appeared to me as really bad stuff. That I was like, and then I threw on some Wu-Tang, and then I was just like, I transformed that, and I was like, I almost got into a fight, which was a little too aggressive. But like, it's music is really important, right? And I'm gonna end my talk on music, then we'll pass it to Joanna if you could. Then we go to Eli with his final thoughts. But one of my friends, who's not my friend anymore, he was also a reggaeton artist, and he was actually pretty talented. And he was, he was successful in what he did, and he was not very self-aware and didn't have the highest emotional intelligence, though. So one night he keeps playing this instrumental over and over and over again. He's writing a song about his daughter, who he's estranged from. And then after 2 hours, he's like, yo, why am I so sad? I was like, hey, idiot, maybe because you've been writing a sad song for 2 hours with a sad beat and sitting there like, oh, change the beat, right? Change the beats. Listen to something happy. Listen to some some Katy Perry and maybe, I don't know, Katy Perry might have got canceled. So whatever you like that makes you happy. All right. And now I'll pass it up to Coach Joanna with those final words. Actually, before I do, we will be back roughly 8:30 next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And in the meantime, guys, go back and check out our previous episodes. We have some really dope episodes with a ton of cool guests. So check us out there. And then don't forget to visit us on DancingDragons.cc, DancingDragons.cc. One more time, DancingDragons.cc. And, you know, this is the perfect opportunity because, like, right now it's kind of cool because I'm able to kind of pick their brains too. But if you want someone specialized to you to help you become the best version of yourself, like Megan was saying, find us now at DancingDragons.cc. Thank you for allowing me to do that, Coach Joanna.
I just would like to say I nominate for another future topic, music. Just a blanket music topic. We just talk about music for an hour. I think that would be, so if you like that, put it in the chat that you'd like
And
to see
art.
that, because I would like to see that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do too.
I want to just touch back to what Coach Eli said before about working with your hands as a method by which to move through, as Coach Megan said, to move through these states. I turned to crafting. I turned to arts and crafts and creating, cooking, reading physical books, turning pages, felt more tangible and helped me move the intangible outward. And so I cannot advocate that enough. If you are feeling stuck or you are feeling like you are in these spaces where this negative talk is on a feedback loop and it's just incessant, one of the ways to break that cycle is to physically break the cycle by changing your physicality, changing what you're doing with yourself, with your hands. It doesn't have to cost you money, doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be that time consuming. While you're sitting watching TV, instead of using your phone, pick up a paintbrush, pick up a paint by numbers, do a little diamond thing that my friends are obsessed with. Like, there are so many things that can take you out of this headspace and put you more into the earthly space, which is where there is nourishment. There is time, there is love, there is support around you. So I feel like Coach Eli, nail on the head, man. That helped me immensely when I was working through this stuff. So I advocate for it. Music, also theater, any arts, which we'll get to next week, are just instrumental in helping to move you forward, because it's all about motion, right? Emotions are energy in motion. We just need to move the energy through us so that it can land somewhere else.
And she also, not only did she do that, but she also said you hit the nail on the head and you were talking about building a deck. So that was two right there.
Good.
That's true too.
All about the puns today.
And now for something entirely different. So I would feel remiss if I didn't bring up this story, right? I hope somebody got the Monty Python's Flying Circus reference there. But anyway, so I was watching this documentary. It was about like this disabled kid, and in the documentary, the voiceover said, Jimmy doesn't know the meaning of the word can. And that really like touched me, because it's like, not only is the kid disabled, but he doesn't understand simple contractions. You know, it's not that hard. I'm sorry, that's a Mitch Hedberg joke. But but Will said I couldn't tell jokes, so I had to. But the reason why I bring that up, and again, I would be remiss if we went through this whole episode and I didn't bring up this topic, is that I feel very strongly about how damaging low expectations can be for people. Right. And I think it's something that we do way too much, and we're trying to be nice, and it's not nice at all. I think there's like a comedian. He's a British guy. I think his name's Jimmy Carr. Does that sound right? He's pretty famous.
I think it sounds right. Yeah, I'm not a fan of his, but
he's not very funny, but he's a very thoughtful guy. And he had brought this up. He said, I think that we're nice to people on the wrong time scale. He said, we're nice to them in the moment, but we don't do them any favors long term, right? We're actually very cruel to them long term. And so if you're always telling people like what they want to hear and stuff, there's something that you catch on to, right? Like if you're being enabled, it's like you catch on to that. You're like, wait, do they not expect anything from me? You know, like if you mess up and everybody's telling you, oh, it's okay, you know, then you're like, no, like I should be held accountable for this, right? Like, and when you're not held accountable, it's like, wow, do they really think that well of me? And then what happens is it can become part of your identity. This happens over and over and over again in your life. Let's say it's like a brother or sister or your whole family or all your friends. Gaslighting is a sin, people. And so what I would say is just like, make sure that you're not doing those low expectation things. Because sometimes, you're trying to be nice, but you end up more like coddling, and then it can be really damaging to somebody's identity. So I just want to throw that out there. And I don't think it gets talked about nearly enough. So there you go.
Yeah, we could spend a whole episode on that, and I think it's really important, right? Because people can go through things, and as Elijah has explained to me behind the scenes, and it's something that I know very well too, is, somebody goes through something really bad, and then they can just do no wrong. And then, and that is, like Elijah said, one of the worst things that you can do for somebody. So and that's why it's important to get a coach, because a coach is not just going to sit there and enable you and say, oh, that's fine. No, they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to make you set up some boundaries, and they're really going to dig deep. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Coach Eli, because we should have kind of elaborated on that before. But yeah, that's a problem individually and on a societal level. So yeah, and that can be taken care of by getting to know the person, and then also if it's a friend or family member, you're gonna want to give them the hard truth, right? Because gaslighting is a serious thing, right? So very important that you brought that up, Eli. And I guess what? You know what? You can tell a joke next week. You did a good job, man. That last joke saved you. You are now on the joke list. And I want to say thank you for everyone that joined us today. Thank you to Coach Joanna, CEO, and Coach Alex, Coach Megan, Coach Eli, and everybody watching. Big shout outs to Mama Bear and Mrs. Reaper out there. Guys, share this video. Go back and check out our other dope videos, how to ace an interview, our interview with J. Michael Springman, U.S. diplomat, author, lawyer, and all the other cool episodes that we've done. We get philosophical on these two, and it's a lot of fun. Next week, what's our topic? Is it going to be, should we tell them now? Yeah, let's tell them now. So next week, we're going to be talking about arts and music in school. And so we're going to kind of unpack that and talk. And I guarantee you, Eli and myself have some things that are going to surprise you, as we do every week. Guys, DancingDragons.cc. Check us out. Go over there right now. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get over 500 right now. Help build us up. Share this video and find us at DancingDragons.cc. We will see you next week, roughly 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, folks.
And remember, be excellent.